Today is a video that's been a long time coming. So I turned 30 last year in 2020. You wouldn't think it actually. I look 15 because I've got pimples, and I look 40 because of the grey in my hair. So I figure that averages out to the legal age of 30. As you get older, you learn things that you wish you knew when you were younger. Why did no one tell me this? My aim is for you guys to listen and apply this advice at 20 rather than to appreciate it at 30. Number one is mobility. Mobility to me is flexibility, but it's having strength in that end range of motion, so not just loose. Mobility has these three things going for it. It improves quality of life, it improves performance, and it helps to prevent injury. Mobility is something that takes time to work at, but once you achieve it, it has very little requirements needed to maintain that range of motion. Next one is to compete, and this is one that I wish I did more of, and I plan to do more of into the future. For me, I look at competitiveness as putting a type of pressure there that builds a diamond, in the sense of a competition gives a deadline, it gives the pressure of going up against other people, and given that adversity, it helps you grow. And because of that deadline to a competition, it's like going in a hyperbolic time chamber. I feel like that pressure forces you to learn so much more in that short amount of time than if you were otherwise just training for, say, 8 weeks. Now, a competition is not going to be for everyone, but I think everyone should try it. As with most sports, you're looking at an introduction of arbitrary rules to determine a winner, which can be something that detracts from what training gives to your life. But I think everyone should do it. I think everyone should try it, go up against that pressure and that likely adversity from applying that pressure, and you're only going to get positive returns back in terms of what you learn, what lessons that you learn from competition. Next one is adopt a long-term mindset to your training. How that benefits is that I'll address things in the short term that I otherwise would have ignored. So for example, when I did Olympic lifting, I would get knee tendonitis, patella tendonitis, and quadriceps tendonitis. So above and below the kneecap. I would push through this because I was on a program that was going to peak to either competition or a max lift. What started happening was it affected my quality of life. I was looking for that short-term gratification of finishing that program and peaking that program to get a PB, but it was at the cost of when I would go to the movies, when I would sit on a plane or drive in a car. I couldn't sit comfortably for longer than 20 to 30 minutes without my knee bothering me. Now, if I address this pain, which I did end up doing and I've gotten away scot-free, a short-term mindset would push through the pain, lead to injury, and affect my training for the long term because I wanted that short-term gratification within my training. So think more long-term and understand that 6 weeks away from training, when you're gonna live into your 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, is nothing. It's not something to stress about and think that you're losing your gains if it only is going to be 6 weeks out, which for me at the time was quite a significant amount of time, and still kind of does, which is where I'm still learning to apply this info. But the long-term mindset is always going to benefit you more than it's going to take away. So when I was a kid and I would go to the park and kick the ball with my dad, one thing he would always say would be control. Control, Tyson. Control your shit. It kind of just started to become just, oh, dad's just saying that. But as I've gotten older, I've realized the importance of what that means to control within physical activity. Now, how you could apply that to kicking the ball would be, my way of seeing it was as long as I had the ball and I could kick it, that was good enough. But the way my dad was meaning it was control as in know the trajectory of the ball and where it's the path it is traveling to get to you. Know how you're going to receive it and bring it down to your foot to control the ball. Then know how you're going to line it up and where it's going to go, and how you're going to kick it, how much power, what direction. It's the whole thing, the whole picture is what the control, the trigger word control means. Now, how I would apply that to my training would be, so often I see particularly younger guys, me included, that the actual thing was more important than the entire picture and how we got to doing that thing. So let's use the example of a squat. A perfect, picture perfect back squat with 60 kilos is more impressive than a 100 kilo back squat that is dropped down like a dive bomb down, coming up and having the knees caving in and round in the back. The impressiveness doesn't come from the fact that you went up and down with 100 kilos. It comes from the fact that you were in control of every facet of the up and down phase with 60 kilos. The point being that the control is also part of the strength. It's also part of the demonstration of mastery of a movement. It's not just about the number. I'm quite the authority on this next one. So if you followed me for years now, if you've been a long time follower, you'll know that I like to do training series. And in the past, a big theme of the training series is that we're going to train to something and get it. Like the culmination of the series was going for that max attempt. I was highlighting and prioritizing and emphasizing the importance of the goal and not so much on the journey of getting to that goal. Because when you think about it, if my goal is, let's just say, the Iron Cross, that goal and the fun of that, attempting that goal and getting it, the actual goal is going to last 2 to 3 seconds. The building up to and getting the goal is going to take one session, and you're going to allocate one day to go for that goal. If you get it or not, that shouldn't take away from the 12 weeks that you put into building up to that goal. And you see it in sports a lot as well. Did they win that game? Did they win that fight? And that's all that matters for us as fans watching. And we can take that mindset into our own training to think, oh, well, I didn't get that 100 kilo bench press, or I didn't get the Iron Cross. And we act like that was the only reason we were doing training. Yes, goal attempts are great, but goal attempts are probably going to factor in, or should factor in, about 5% of the enjoyment. It's so much more about the entire process than it is about that 1 second of glory. As sweet as it is not the reason that we do it. It is for some, and by God is it sweet, but that is not a long-term mindset, and you will find 9 times out of 10 that when we only focus on that end thing, there's an expiration date. This next one is just my opinion. This whole thing is my opinion. Learn some kind of self-defense or martial arts. My recommendations would be jiu-jitsu, wrestling, kickboxing, boxing, or Muay Thai for striking. The reason I say this is because I train to make my body better at doing things, and one of those things should be to defend myself. Yes, I can control my own body in many different ways through my training, but what if someone tried to control me? Someone tried to attack me. So I went to some classes, and whilst my training in bodyweight strength, in Olympic lifting, weightlifting, mobility was very, very beneficial at learning skills a lot quicker, going up against people, sparring or rolling, whatever it was, wrestling, with people that knew more than me, even though I had a better base in terms of physical capabilities, because they knew what to do, it rendered me almost helpless, which was a massive wake-up call. And the takeaway from that is to learn self-defense, because when you are against someone that's trying to control you and they know more about martial arts than you do, they can control you, whether or not you're stronger, whether or not you're more mobile. This next one can be maybe hard to accept or hear or to convince otherwise, but it's to put performance over aesthetics. Now, I have a very easy way of convincing you guys how to do this, is that if you focus on performance, the aesthetics, looking better, is just a side effect of it. Many young guys look at health and fitness as bodybuilding type of training. How do I get bigger chest, shoulders, back, blah, blah, blah. If that's a goal of yours, look at different sports and movements that build that, as opposed to just going into the gym and isolating that muscle group to build it up. There's not much functionality or effectiveness that comes from doing that. If you enjoy legs, get into Olympic lifting, get into cycling. If you enjoy grip, if you enjoy big forearms, get into grip strength, get into some climbing, get into strongman. If you like biceps, you've got to start training on steel rings. You're gonna get these gains with your muscles, but you're also gonna get increased functionality and a healthier, better equipped body. This is a big one if you need to hear it. I've been alluding to it in other ones, other points I've made before, but it's to follow what is fun. Now, this isn't necessarily something that I knew I was doing when I was younger, I just naturally did it. But this is more for those that are aware they need to do some form of health and fitness but don't have much direction, and they're likely going to fall into that bodybuilding track. Follow what you enjoy to do. If you enjoy swimming, running, climbing, scuba diving, gymnastics, breakdancing, dance, do that. The reason why I think this is an important point is because young men are prone to being influenced by what's cool, what looks good. And that might take someone that otherwise enjoyed golf and scuba diving to join a gym and use a machine to do their abs and to do biceps curls and shit like that, which they don't need to do. If you enjoy scuba diving, swim more, do breath work, work on shoulder mobility. You've already got some work, a whole week, a whole program, a whole year worth of training that you can do just based around those things. It's all about finding what you enjoy, breaking down the movements, thinking how you could improve on those movements, and you can build strength and conditioning and mobility workouts around that to complement doing that activity every week. And there you go. You've got yourself your life of training sorted, and there's always things to modify and work with as you go. Find what's fun. It doesn't have to be the same thing as everyone else. Find what you personally enjoy, do it, build strength and conditioning mobility workouts around that, and that's how you do it. Follow what is fun. Don't be afraid to be a beginner. Don't be afraid to, if you're interested in doing self-defense now, don't be afraid to have 5 years in the bank of doing rock climbing or a triathlon or bodybuilding training, and to go to jiu-jitsu gym and to be that white belt that doesn't know anything at 23 years old and think, oh, I should go back to the thing where I've got groups of friends, where people know me, where I know what I'm doing, and move away from this jiu-jitsu because I don't know what I'm doing and I'm 23. Cut that mindset out. I've been a beginner so many times and it still feels somewhat uncomfortable to come in to do it. And I see people around me when I do these new things, I see their uncomfortability and I see it get the better of a lot of people. It does feel uncomfortable as the older you get to be a beginner again. But having that open mind to learn new things, one, is just good for the brain, but two, is never gonna then put a cap on your ability to learn and get better in your training journey, in your training life. This one developed throughout my 20s to being 30. and it's kind of the basis of my training philosophy, and that is to train for skill acquisition. In terms of like having a YouTube channel and having a fitness channel, it's beneficial to me to box myself into one category, to be bodyweight training, to be Olympic lifting, to be bodybuilding. If I'm one specific thing, it's easier to build a market around that, but I can only be me, and being me is open to all different types of movement. I strongly believe that gymnastics training and Olympic lifting are two of the best things you can do to equip your body to be good, or what's the word, efficient at beginning any other movement, and it's certainly helped me with many other things. Jiu-jitsu, wrestling, yoga, cycling, running, all of that. But I train for skill acquisition. I train to make my body better at doing things. And Olympic lifting and gymnastic strength training is not always going to be the answer to that. And there's always something new to learn that I can bring to my overall scope of how I approach training and what I think training is, if I'm trying and learning new things. A little insight into my mind will be, say I've trained for the week, I'm at home or I've been out and I'm carrying my groceries back to the car, and I find that my traps are getting super sore and my grip is getting sore. I'm like, why can I not carry these 15 bags in one hand? It'll then make me think, it would be cool if I had better grip. Then that will trigger the thought of like, what type of training would I do to improve my grip? I could climb. I know they've got good grip, but I know that's not their central focus. I know strongman training literally has a lot of their exercises based around how strong is your grip. And I've also seen those captains of crush grippers, which have like numbered standards of what you can get to. So that will plant the seed to then start to think, oh, maybe I want to learn how to improve my grip strength. Then another day, I'll be watching David Blaine on YouTube holding his breath for ages, and I'll start to think, how long could I hold my breath? Could I get better at holding my breath? Is that part of what training could be? If I could have a better, greater lung capacity, could that improve my cardio for wrestling? And there's always dots to be connected, but it's almost like you're looking at the stars up in the sky. It's such a massive picture to look at. You're never going to complete the picture, but you're always working on connecting dots. And the dots can sometimes seem far away, and then other times they'll seem far away, and then you'll realize that there was a dot right next to it. As in, what's a good example of like mobility, gymnastic strength training, and then doing yoga, and realizing that there's a lot of elements of gymnastic strength training that can facilitate progress in yoga if you wanted it to. Which then in yoga, with the breath work, when I'm doing specific breath work for diving, or it's like scuba diving, for example, there's another unlikely dot that we made there. And it's just to complement the overall training picture. It's to just make my body better at doing whatever the hell I want it to do. And that's the video today, guys. 10 years in the making, if you want to look at it like that. Let me know what you think is super important training advice that you think could help other people that you've learned through experience but wish you knew in the past. If you got something out of it, let me know. Let me know what one really resonated with you, if any, and leave a like if you got something out of it. We're grinding to 30,000 subscribers. We're nearly there. Subscribe if you haven't already to help us get to that number faster. There'll be much more videos like this, tutorials, how-tos, entertainment, and yeah, guys, you guys have a great day, and I'll see you for the next one.